Beverly Raymond, Christopher Smith, Ellen Clark, Harold Doucette, Jerry LeBeau,
Here.
Melvin Getwood. You have a quorum, Chair.
Okay. Can I get an invocation and pledge? Ms. Raymond?
Father God, we come once again. Thank you for your many blessings. Thank you for allowing us to be at another meeting. Thank you, Father God, for all you do and continue to do. I ask a special blessing on our board member, Vice President Christopher Smith, that you will heal his body. Father God, restore him back to normal strength. Father God, I ask that you bless his family and his friends and the board. Father God, thank you for our new board member, Dr. Getwood. Thank you for our CEO and all the staff and board members that are present here tonight. Father God, I ask that you bless us and help us and give us the knowledge and understanding and wisdom to do the job that we need to help the economic corporation be what it needs to be. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. You can stand. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You all received a copy of the minutes of the last board meeting. Is there any questions? If not, can I get a motion? And a second? All in favor? Motion passes. Presentation, I wanted to introduce Mr. Melvin Getwood to the board, and I'd like, if you'd have anything to say or like to say anything, please.
Yes, I welcome the opportunity to serve. I welcome the opportunity to serve on this board. I think you all have done great things in the community, and I would like to be a part of those ongoing things and work in harmony with each director as well as staff members. I look forward to working with the new CEO of the Economic Development Corporation. And I will end by saying I have a deep and great love for the city of Port Arthur.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
No communication, no speakers. The report, CEO report, Mr. Stokes.
Most of this day sitting, I am going to ask your indulgence while I stand. Again, I wish everyone a happy new year, and thank you again for your service to not only this corporation, but also, most importantly, to the community. Wanted to take you through several items in my report, starting off with an update on the 90-day plan that I introduced to you all at your last meeting. That plan consisted of 3 components: vigorous stakeholder engagement, a evaluation of the overall organization as well as staffing, and making sure that that was aligned with part 3 of the component, a strategic plan that will be developed based on pillars of strategic priorities, which we'll discuss in just a few minutes. That plan got launched the next morning from your last meeting. What I have on what I am labeling as page 1 of my report is a progress report on the stakeholder engagement. Those items shown in green represent stakeholders that have already been engaged, that I've met with one-on-one. In some cases, stakeholders requested second and third meetings, which was fine, but not sure how I'll make it through 90 days if I keep doubling back up on the folks I've already met with. Rich conversations beginning to give me a picture of where things stand, where we need to go as an organization, and what relationships need to be fostered in order for us to achieve the overall goals that we have for the corporation to the benefit of the community. So that engagement will continue on in the next 30 days. You can kind of get an idea. These are listed just like last month, top to bottom in alphabetical order, and then each column is in alphabetical order. So long way to go, but like I say, I'm enjoying every minute of the conversations and giving me a great deal of insight as to where we are, where we need to go. Questions? Okay. I'm going to give you an update on the proposed committee charters that were introduced at your last meeting. One of the things that I was remiss in doing is making it very clear that it was not my intention that these committees would be made up of folks that would basically be supplemental staff. These are purely advisory instruments, and the goal is to pair folks with like-minded interest and background and experiences with the particular committee that they may choose to serve on. But again, I can't stress enough, these are not situations where all of a sudden directors are being called upon to do the work that you're paying myself and staff to do. Purely advisory guidance. So to that end, there were three that I brought to your attention last month. One of them I've rescinded temporarily, and that was the proposed executive committee. Upon getting feedback and just looking at things again, I realized that that particular committee, in terms of drafting a charter, was going to require a little bit more work on my part, a little more tweaking. So I may bring that back to you next month, but for now, that is not in for consideration. So I want to move on to what I called incorrectly last month, Finance Committee, which should have been Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee. On page 2 of the handout for my report, you see an extraction of the current text that's in the current bylaws for that particular committee. What I didn't stress last month, that I want to do a better job of stressing now, is that in the draft that I provided you, I basically extracted that text and then just added things based on my background experiences that I've seen work at other stops, things that I've studied other corporations do, things that I've done myself with committees. So that is where the additional context that you see on page 3, which is an updated draft of what I gave you last month. And I'm going to, in a second, stop and give you a chance to dive through that. But at a very high level, you have the content, the bylaws that are in there now, maybe just phrased a little bit differently, paragraphed a little differently, but nonetheless still there, along with just some additional things like corrections. For example, the bylaws talk about the committee working in conjunction with the director. Well, the rest of the bylaws refer to this role as the chief executive officer. So just little clarifications like that, but not in any way, shape, or form intended to change the function of that group. And again, let me emphasize, the goal is to get at least 3 folks who have that interest, that financial interest of moving the corporation forward, to come alongside me and staff to provide advice, guidance, allow us to bounce ideas off of folks, not doing any work, but just purely providing advice and guidance, so that, and again, let me emphasize, not substituting for the full board, not making any decisions, purely from an advisory point of view. With that, let me just give you a few minutes to just go through that in case you have any questions. Everyone's made their way through. Questions on that draft for the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee charter?
One question.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking at comparing the bylaws and your proposal, and I see where you would like to have 3 board members on the committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because the bylaw states 1 board member alone, the other person. So you would like to see 3.
Yes,
board
ma'am.
members.
And along those lines, you didn't ask this, but let me expand. Taking the bylaws literally, it could be interpreted that that particular committee could be opened up to anyone. I humbly suggest that the finances of the corporation should be something that's kept with the directors, as opposed to bringing in someone else other than a paid auditor. That's what I would be more comfortable with, as opposed to, there may be other committees where you could open them up to non-directors, but I just think this particular one needs to be directors. Yes, ma'am.
How would you like them to meet? Would you like them to meet regularly or as needed?
As needed. When I go a little bit further in here, I don't want to in any way, shape, or form mislead any folks. We've got some financial things to do. Most notably, that building down the block. I'll get into that deeper. But as we go in early on, yes, I'm going to need those folks to come alongside. But in specific to your question, it's on an as-needed basis. Certainly, the chair of that committee can call the meeting at any time. But in terms of responding to me, I always make the promise to you all that I recognize that you got lives, you got day jobs. Try to keep the overhead to a minimum, but balance that out with, I really need the feedback. And in this particular case, going to need a whole lot of it. In fact, both of the proposed committees going to have to go showtime pretty quickly. Other questions? At your meeting last month, I suggested in italics an inaugural set of folks. And I say in italics inaugural because I recognize it was a standing committee that perhaps had ongoing members. And of course, we lost the treasurer. So obviously it's purely up to you all, but I had suggested Director Clark, Director Doucette, and Treasurer Connor. Obviously you're going to need to fill that position during your annual meeting. And so still looking at 3, whatever that happens to be in terms of your eventual vote would be my suggestion. Obviously, I do not get a vote, so it's purely just a suggestion on my part. Questions about that particular charter? Okay. Well, that takes us to page 4 of the document on my report. The Marketing Communications Committee charter, unlike the Budget and Finance and Audit Committee, this is a committee that doesn't presently exist in our bylaws in terms of standing committees. So not only is the charter obviously new, the committee in and of itself would be new, and in addition to the existing standing committees. Much like what I said in the Budget and Finance Committee, okay. Purely advisory. The goal is to get like-minded, interested folks who have shown a passion for things as it relates to marketing, our messaging, our storying, in the room with myself and staff as we go about the very heavy lifting this year of redoing pretty much our entire portfolio as it relates to marketing, starting with our website. I've had some people lovingly and gently just kind of politely say it needs work. I've had some of the directors just kind of cut to the chase, blow it up, and let's start all over. Duly noted from the range of information. I haven't had anyone vote for it. Well, let's keep it, doggone it, just the way it is. So that is job number 1. And I certainly, along with staff, want to have folks in the room without having to call a quorum an entire meeting, be getting feedback and advice. If it's something as simple as, the coders have put in a new button, and I just want Director Anderson to give us some feedback as he's, testing it, trying to break things and so forth and so on. It's what these types of things call for. Again, not making decisions in absence of the full board. There's no decisions to make. This is just advice, and where interested parties can come together and provide me and staff that background. So again, I will stop, although it reads very much like the previous one. The other one was focused on money. This is focused on marketing. So I'll give you a minute just to peruse that in case you have any questions. Questions? Feedback? Thoughts? Yes, Madam Secretary.
The only question I have is, do we have a marketing employee on staff?
Not at this point in time. That is part of the conversations I need to have with this eventual committee.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And we're training, our workshops be available to assist the board members in making
Oh,
sure.
gosh, yes, absolutely. Very good question. Thank you. You jump one step ahead of me. I appreciate that. Any other questions or feedback? Okay. Again, last month I suggested an inaugural set of directors. Again, obviously that final thought process rests with you all, but I had suggested Director Anderson, Secretary Raymond, and Vice President Smith. But again, that's just the CEO's suggestion. You all obviously have the final decision on that. Okay, let me move on from the charters. Last month, I provided you a list of strategic priorities upon which the eventual strategic plan would be based upon. And upon further review, I did an absolutely lousy job of introducing the conversation, because what I failed to point out was that these were not my suggestions. These were not my ideas. This was simply me sending back to each of you what I thought I heard in each one of my one-on-one meetings with you back in November, December, and as recently as last week in January. So to that end, if I heard incorrectly, this would be a good time to tell me before I embark upon putting together a comprehensive plan to achieve these things over the next 5 to 10 years. If there is something that upon further review we need to discuss, I heard it wrong, got it wrong, didn't mean to say it that day, whatever, please let me know. There is no action asked of you this evening relative to this, but I will give it another 30 or so days, roughly, to be chewed upon, to be thought about. But before I and staff do embark upon developing a strategic plan at your February meeting, I will ask you to approve these, make any modifications, and then approve, so forth and so on, so that we just have a record that we're launching into in unison what we're going to put our strategies together for. Questions before I move on to the next topic? Okay, at the City Council's December 20th meeting last month, I had been invited to attend by the mayor so that he and his fellow council members could give me a informal / formal welcome to the community, not to be confused with a meet and greet that will happen at some point, hopefully in the near future. But this was just to have me come to the podium, say hello to everyone, introduce myself, so forth and so on. So I appreciated that. Wasn't very long, but it was nice of them, and each council member took the floor and took the mic and had some nice things to say. So I appreciated that from the bottom of my heart. One of the things that I did do in that time before that I had in front of them was to commit to them the same thing that I committed to you all in my interviews, and that's that I would meet with City Council. I would give a presentation, not meet with them, but give a presentation at the end of each quarter, just a 10-15 minute update on where we are, where we're going, and a little bit of where we've been. So that seemed to be well received by them, appreciated. So more than likely the first one will probably be in March, depending on scheduling and what they have going on. And obviously if it's a full agenda, then I can always do that report anytime. I don't want to take away from other business of the community. The other thing that I mentioned to them, and again, in follow up to what I mentioned to you all in my interviews with the board, is that what has worked for me in previous stops and what I wanted them to think about, and if they felt agreeable to it, that there would be at least twice a year joint meetings between this corporation and the City Council. Those joint meetings would happen, the first one would happen at the beginning of the fiscal year in October. The second one would happen halfway through the year, which would typically be a March timeframe, depending on schedules and our agenda, their agenda, so forth and so on. So to that end, and that is something, again, that seemed to be well received. I didn't have anyone throw any tomatoes at me or anything, and everyone seemed to nod their head and, okay, Mr. Stokes, okay, we can do that. So to that end, we're targeting March as being the first one for this particular fiscal year, because obviously we're long past October, so we could only do one for this fiscal year. And that would be built around either this board's monthly meetings, because you were going to carve out that time anyway, or one of their 2 meetings in March, because they had to carve out that time. Just starting those conversations, the mayor is out of pocket right now, but contacted him just yesterday. And basically his reply, Mr. Stokes, as soon as I get back in, we'll put this together. So I wanted to just go ahead and say it now so that you could just be thinking that more than likely sometime in March, we will have our first joint meeting, or at least the first one since I've come on board. Questions? Okay. That takes us to the press building. Unless Beer Crystal tells me otherwise, we are 100% done. Construction is done, paperwork is done. No, we haven't had the balloons go up and all of that, because I didn't want to do that without you all on hand. So we will do that at some point soon. But obviously I'm coming in at the tail end, but it doesn't take me long to figure out that that was a long journey for this corporation as well as the strategic partner, the city. So to be able to hear those words from everyone, from the lawyers, from the architects, from ourselves, that it's over, was good, and even for a new timer like myself. Uh, Probably still have some things that we need to cross some I's and cross some T's and dot the I's on the grant. But again, unless Ms. Crystal tells me otherwise, both it and the construction are done and done. And like I say, we may still have some paperwork on the grant to do, but as far as, again, the major milestone of having the facility concluded, that is the case. Thank you. I'll come back to the press building in just a few minutes. One of the things that I wanted to mention to you, and Secretary Raymond asked me about staffing a few minutes ago. As I committed to you, one of the things that will come out of the development of the strategic plan is looking at what strategic staffing alignment as well as organizational alignment needs to occur. I'm starting to form some ideas. Secretary Raymond jumped ahead of me because obviously we've got a hole in marketing, and if I'm getting ready to ramp up the marketing and communications committee, it might be nice if someone is sitting there to guide the conversations. So I have an idea, high level, of some things, some holes we're going to have to plug, but I will defer bringing that to you until I've had a chance to put that plan together and let the plan speak for itself in terms of where we need to go on staffing. So I just recognize holes to be filled, holes that you would know about that I'm just now getting my arms around. I'm getting there. I humbly ask for your time and breathing room while I get this 90-day plan and going and start to get the feedback that we need. That takes me to my next item. As a part of the overall 90-day plan, one of the things that I've embarked upon is conducting a full-fledged deep dive observation and evaluation of all of the corporation's programs, policies, procedures, and assets. I need this information in order to get my arms around things, to make sure that whatever strategies we do settle upon and put together as for a strategic plan makes sense with where we've been, where we are, and where we want to go. Give me that clear picture for the recommendations that I need to eventually make to you. One of my biggest concerns in the short time that I've been here is our financials. I could keep you all night, but you got things that you got to do, but they're not where I want them to be in terms of my ability to get the data that is needed in order to work with you to make the decisions that need to be made. It has nothing to do with capabilities, capacity, or anything like that. It has to do with the fact that right now we have things outsourced, most notably accounts payable, and they're outsourced to the city. And that staff, from the short time I've been here, is doing just one whale of a job, tremendous job in assisting us. But we run into one little problem. If I could paraphrase Director Doucette, if you don't mind me borrowing from you, we're not the city. And the things that you need to do and the reports that you need to gather and how you go about running the city is great, but that may not work for the types of stakeholders that we have and strategic partners that the corporation has, which then prevents me from giving myself the information that I need to be comfortable with. And if I'm not comfortable with it, I'm hard pressed to present it to you. So that is one of the things, going back to that budgeting and finance, like I said, the marketing and communications committee will be getting going. Well, the same thing with budgeting, finance, and auditing. If this thing is going to be turned around in a short term, that body is folks that I'm going to need to sit down along with staff pretty quickly as we start to take a look at things that we can do in the future. I have embarked upon conversations with our city manager and his 2 assistant city managers. The 4 of us are in agreement on what needs to be done going forward. I'm still trying to firm some things up. Still need to make sure I, have a committee, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. But in a nutshell, things are not where I nor you would want them to be. Nobody's fault. It's just that we've outsourced to an entity that is focused upon other things. And what they're focused on is not wrong. It's just a mismatch. And we just need to get that mismatch eliminated. Questions? Okay. And I am mindful, and if I forget 7 o'clock, trust me, Joni will throw something at me, a cush ball or something. So, but I am trying to watch the time. I wanted to give you an update on the press building, the 3 anchor tenants, along with a high-level overview. Before I dive into the 3 anchor tenants, let me note that I have asked Ms. Mueller to take over the day-to-day operation of the press building. And that has already begun because, no disrespect, there was more pressing need than I could wait until January 10th. So you certainly have the right to tell me, nah, do something else, but I hope that you don't do that, given the deep experience that Ms. Mueller has with that building. To that end, I've asked her and her team to immediately undertake an inventory of everything in that building. Every human, every non-human, every inanimate object. Because I won't speak for you all. Maybe you all know what's all in there. I don't. And I feel downright silly standing up here in front of my board and confessing that I have not a clue. Every time I think I know what's in there, I turn a corner and something else done popped up. Don't know who ordered it, how I got there, and how much am I paying for it. There's a number of things that are going to have to be adjusted to get that building ready for what we need it to do in the future on behalf of this corporation and the community. But it starts with ground level. We've got to know what the heck is in there. And so I've asked Ms. Mueller and her associates to undertake that inventory. Without putting undue pressure on her, I hope to have at least some inaugural thoughts to you at your next meeting. But there's a lot in there. And, I tell staff will tell you I have kind of an internal joke. If you just want to have a good time, take a bucket out back and turn on the back spigot and see if money doesn't just green flow out, not water or anything else. Nobody's fault. The past is the past. Nothing I can do about it. I can only get things corrected to move forward. And I just ask for your patience, and quite frankly, I'm not ashamed to ask for your prayers as it's a big task. Got a lot going on. As far as anchor tenants, starting out with Lamar University, I have met with President Bernard, talk about the culinary program. Myself and Ms. Mueller have bounced off some ideas that I will be bouncing off her on ways that perhaps we can enhance the program and be of assistance in that arena, as well as tie that program into some of the entrepreneurship things that we want to do in the press building going forward. Those conversations are just underway. Certainly hope to have more information for you as I have further conversations with the president. Happy with everything that has been done so far, and certainly there's been a lot of fevered work back in the late summer and early fall to kind of get the culinary equipment and everything in the condition that the university needed. And I know she's pleased with that. And now we're just kind of joining hands and, okay, let's move into the future type of thing. In terms of our second anchor tenant, the Federal Credit Union, with a great deal of help from Ms. O'Neill and her team. We have provided them a revised lease draft as of this past week. Have not received feedback on that, but I certainly hope to have that concluded and brought to you at your February meeting for final approval. Been an uphill climb, but and part of that climb was that all of this was being done while a new person was being dropped in off another planet. So that kind of slowed things down, but we've tried to make up speed and get them something that is agreeable to both organizations and to the benefit of both organizations. And then lastly, the Emergency Operations Center. Those folks continue to bring in their necessary equipment, getting that operation up and going. From my recent tour last week, a few more things that they have to do in order to get everything in there that they need. So wouldn't call it, I doubt if they would call it fully operational because they still have people and equipment to get in there. But I do not see anything that will prevent them from being successfully to conclude them getting things up and going. Okay. Any questions before I leave the topic of the press building? Okay. Last on my list, I just wanted to give you a quick update on some operational matters. When the current fiscal year's budget was developed and approved by yourself and then subsequently City Council, allocations were made for a generator for this particular, for the press building. Did not bring that to you at your December meeting because I wanted to do two things. One, make sure that the capacity that had been targeted at that time was still going to meet the needs as we bring in these 3 anchor tenants. And I wanted to get a updated quote, put some freshness on the quote because the one that the budget had been based on it was just a little bit old. So the good news is that the new quote still well within what you had already allocated, so no problem there. And I feel very comfortable that this generator will provide the necessary capacity should we, heaven forbid, incur an extended period of time in terms of an emergency. And you will take that matter up later on in your agenda. Still want to improve the exterior lighting on this facility in the press building. Have not gathered in all of the research and quotes that I want to have before I bring it to you for conversation. We'll certainly do that over the next 30 days. If in fact you formulate the budget, finance, and audit committee, then that's something that I will provide to them as a conversation on my way to bringing it to your February meeting. And the same thing in terms of security. Not only do we need to ramp up the security on this facility, especially for events like this, going to need to ramp up the security at the press building also in terms of where it is now and where we want it to go in the future. So those things myself and staff are evaluating, and we'll have a little more meat on the bone as we go forward. And with that, directors, that concludes my report. Yes, sir.
Ask one question. The generator placement, I understand that, but the increased capacity at the press building.
Yes, in other words, I wanted to make sure that what had been targeted back when you put budget together and put a number to that was indeed going to meet the needs in the short term as well as the long term. Good news is that it will. So no changes to capacity need to be made. And as I mentioned, in terms of the new quote, still well within the guidelines that you had approved for this fiscal year. Other questions? With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor back to you.
Unfinished business is none. Consent agenda. The items non-consent, review, discuss, and consider approval of a letter of intent and Phase 1 application from Vessel Cleaning LLC. Can I get a motion and a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions? Sir?
I want to explain this particular, because I know normally it's a letter of intent, then it moves on from there, but this is like a combo deal, so they had to already have some discussion somewhere. So if you don't mind kind of explaining this company to us.
Yes, Board of Directors, this here is a Phase 1 application from Vessel Cleaning LLC, which is also known as Vessel Repair. They are located on Proctor Extension. They currently have operations where they do repairs and production for vessels that come into their dock, but they are looking to expand their operations into the cleaning of vessel business. So they have approached the EDC as to possible incentives for their job creation. They're looking to hire, I believe it's 30 within the first 5 years at an average of $58,000 per employee. So again, this is just the Phase 1 application. If you all give us permission to move forward and engage them further and look at their project and go forward with the Phase 2 application and do our due diligence to see if this is a feasible project.
30 employees will be Port Arthurans, or there's 30 employees period within the area?
So they did not specify those 30 employees on their letter of intent, but those are things that we'll work out and we'll present to you if we do get into the full application process, because we will require those that we incentivize part of to be Port Arthur residents.
Thing. Questions? All in favor? Against? Motion passed. Second item is review, discussing, and consider approving of a purchase and installation of a generator at 501 Proctor Street per Panama Equipment quote. Any questions or comments? Beverly, Miss Beverly?
Okay, I know Panama Equipment keeps the maintenance on our generators. Usually when we decide on a quote for a generator, we usually have 3 quotes. Am I correct? Are we going with Panama because they already have a contract with us to maintain our generators?
Actually, Ms. Raymond, we did, I want to say possibly spring of last year, we acquired 3 quotes, and Panama Equipment did come in the lowest, which is what we based our budget off of, which was their quote. We just decided not to purchase it until this fiscal year.
For the maintenance and for the purchase of a generator?
This is just purchase and installation. We would have to enter into a maintenance agreement at a later date. That is for the press building. We did do a maintenance agreement for the press building's generator that is already in place. This would be a new generator for this building.
The questions? All in favor? Against? Motion passed. Number 3, review, discuss, and consider approval of the proposed financial committee charter. Any questions?
So if we approve this committee, are we approving it with the proposed names that our CEO suggested? Oh, gotcha.
Next item there.
Okay. I'm good.
Doucette? Could we get the names again of the 3? What's that? Oh, okay. Okay, all in favor? Against? Passed. Number 4, review, discuss, and consider approval of a proposed appointment of members to the Finance Committee charter. All, and we have a second?
I said,
Second, okay, any questions or comments? This is where it comes in.
So directors, again, approval is obviously in your hands. The suggestion last month was Director Clark, Director Doucette, and then Treasurer Connors. Obviously, we're missing a treasurer. You will take care of that and your annual meeting, and that individual would join the two others in terms of suggestions. The treasurer, since whoever that is automatically a member, you don't necessarily have to defer.
Right.
That is just simply on whoever would join, the other two folks that would join them. Yes, sir, Director.
What's that? Yeah, sure.
I thought it said that the treasurer would chair it. And then there are two other members. So whoever our treasurer is was automatic going to chair this. So that name will be placed in after our election.
Right.
And the other two names is Mrs. Clark and myself.
Right.
Okay. That's what it is.
That's it? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Passed. Number 5, review, discuss, and consider approving of a proposed marketing and communication. Second? Second. Any questions? Same? Good? All in favor? Against? Passed. Number 6, review, discuss, and consider approving of the proposed appointment of the members to the Marketing Communication Committee Charter. Second? Question?
Mr. CEO, what was your recommendation on that
Yes, ma'am.
committee?
Thank you. Vice President Smith, Secretary Raymond, and Director Anderson as the inaugural members of the committee.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Passed. The last one, review, discuss, and consider approving of the request to lease property at the PAEDC Jade Avenue Business Park by Mid-County Plaza, requested by myself. Second, any questions? This is where I'm sorry. Back up one. Number 7, discuss of the value of the PAEDC Jade Avenue Business Park. Request the board, myself. Second?
I said,
Good. Okay. Question? This come up 2 months ago, I think, and Crystal was going to get us a fair market value. Is that correct, Crystal?
Sir.
Okay.
In your packets, board members, we did provide you all with some comparisons that I had pulled up in regards to this property. You'll see there the first comparison is 5950 South Gulfway Drive. This is in Sabine Pass. They are currently utilizing or marketing the space for the same use as what is being proposed for that piece of property that is in question. They are currently marketing it at 28 cents per square foot.
1,000 an acre, is that correct, what it says?
I believe it totals to about that much, yes, sir.
Right on top of it, right on top of that? The highlights? Right below it says highlights.
Sometimes these numbers are off, so without doing the math in front of me, I'd hate to tell you that's correct. I'd have to actually do the math for you and make sure that that's the correct number. Now, the next property is property on Highway 365. This is actually right at the end of our Jade Avenue Road leading to the business park. So very close to our business park and the location in question. This is currently at 36 cents per square foot. And then there was one additional property that I pulled from the Houston area, which is at 22 cents per square foot. Now, also in your packet on behind the first page for your consideration, and just for informational purposes, there is a recommendation as to what may be a feasible price for our piece of property.
Question. I'm sorry. Can I?
Yes, Mr. Duke.
Question would be, we have to lease or sell at appraised value, or what? Is it fair market value, appraised value? How is that? What is the requirement by law that we lease or sell property?
We can do it at fair market value. We have not had an appraisal on this land.
Okay, so when we do fair market value, we go through what is the process, what is acceptable for fair market value now?
So in the past, we've reached out to realtors, commercial realtors, to provide us with their opinion on fair market value. These are just in-house comparisons for you all to consider.
The reason I'm saying that is, and somehow or another, we shouldn't use a recommendation from, like you say, a realtor, even if they want to charge us a nominal fee on what the going rate is when we do that, so that we have something documenting and support our decisions, whereby we're not just saying, okay, then these are one that you all found, so hey, this is better of those three. Because at the same time, I just feel when you bring in the professionals and you do it, then we don't have to worry about it. So if we got property like that, then if we reached out to a actual realtor, what is the property is going for? Because we're concerned mostly with in this area, you know, a comparable in a faraway place is not really a good comparison. It's useless because we are competing with people in this area. So if we had a realtor we could reach out and they just give us the information without any fee, then that tells us right then what it's going for. It's not comparables for us. It's what is the fair market value. So that way, when you get that information, you say, okay, this is what property is selling for in this area. And we say, okay, we want to sell it for that. Because we have a choice, you know, of selling for that or trying to negotiate, but we're supposed to sell at fair market value at least. You know?
Right. And I think before we took that step, which you're right, would be the next step, I think the question, and it is on your agenda there in the next item, is whether the board is looking to entertain this proposal before we actually take that step and actually take on any costs.
Well, I understand that, but that's why I want to discuss this before we come to a vote or get to that point, you know? Because if we establish a procedure, then whenever we selling property out of there, you know, we don't have to come back with these comparables and this. We have a process in place that we sell property by. And that process is this. And the reason I'm saying it, you know, when you're doing that way, it eliminates a lot of people provide input, and a price coming, our selection is how we feel today. You know, I know the city, and we're different, but the way they stay clear of all questions, and it leads to sale of property, go to a realtor. So basically, nobody can say, well, they did this, or they select that. You got a process in place, and when that process comes back to us as board members, then we all understand how we derive at what's coming before us. That this number that's coming before us comes from a realtor that's saying what the property in the area is selling for. And then we could say, okay, then we'll sell it for that rate too.
Mr. President, if I could just have a moment. You're absolutely correct, Director Doucette. And I just want to, you're using the word sell the property. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. This is a lease. And so what I think I'm hearing you say, and please correct me if I'm hearing incorrectly, use that realtor provided information on what it would take to sell it to then convert that into a reasonable lease fee.
Well, they also provide the lease information also.
Okay, gotcha.
In the area. So if it's gonna be a lease, then we get that information from the people that are doing the business. And that person say, well, this property like this in this area is going for this amount of money.
Okay, well, I'd like to come back to this. We're gonna have to close this meeting because it's 7 o'clock to go our special board, but I'd like to come back to this if possible. Is that okay? It's 7 o'clock, and of course, we're going into the annual board meeting. And could we get a roll call, please?
Beverly Raymond. Christopher Smith. Ellen Clark. Harold Doucette.
Here.
Jerry LeBeau.
Here.
Melvin Getwood. We have a quorum.
Okay, non-consent agenda. Review, discuss, and consider approval of the selection of the president of the board of the directors of the corporation. Can I get a second? Any questions, or it's time to nominate?
Discussion.
This is for president.
You nominate whoever. But
It's for president.
I'd like to go ahead and renominate Mr. LeBeau for president.
A motion and second. All in favor? Against? Motion carried. Review, discuss, and consider approval of the selection of the vice president of the board of directors of the corporation.
second.
Okay, can we get, let's get a consideration here.
Nominate Mr. Anderson. Commissioner Anderson. Huh? No, I'm just saying, we got to nominate people for these positions.
I second it.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Against? Motion carried. Review, discuss, and consider approving of the selection of the secretary of the board of directors.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Can we get a nomination, please?
I nominate Beverly Raymond.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second. All approve? Motion carried. review, discuss, and consider approving for the treasurer of the board of directors of the corporation. Can I get a nomination, please?
Nominate Ellen Clark.
Ms. Clark, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. I guess at this time, we can close this meeting and restart our other meeting.
The motion that we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Got a motion and a second. Do we need to take a roll call? No? Okay. Okay, we was in the middle of a discussion and I guess
No.
Mr. Stokes was,
We gotta close this meeting, so we motion and second, we gotta vote.
can we get a motion to close the special session?
Yeah, now we voting to close it.
Okay,
So move.
got a motion,
Second?
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion
Okay.
against, motion closed. Meeting closed. Okay.
Right.
Okay, now we was discussing, I think Mr. Stokes was talking about, we was talking about the lease property. We,
Roll call, we gotta go back and open. We gotta go back and open. Right, there we go.
Roll call.
yeah,
Gerald Anderson, Beverly Raymond, Christopher Smith, Ellen Clark, Harold Doucette,
Here.
Jerry LaBeouf,
here,
Melvin Getwood.
Present.
We have a quorum.
okay. Now we was discussing, Mr. Stokes, about the lease.
In terms of item number 4, you're now missing a person. So you may want to take that out in February, or you can double back and take that care of that tonight. You had 3 people. One of them now is serving as treasurer, so you're now down a person.
Oh, he-
Okay, that means we need another
Well, the other member, right? We approved those numbers, so we just have to go back and we're gonna have to replace him. But we gotta go back, we can bring that up at the next meeting, because these officers just got elected.
Yeah, cause we don't know how he's gonna feel.
No,
Hopeful.
No, what I'm just
Right.
saying, right now, we can't go back and fix that because we approved that in the other meeting. We had another meeting for the officers. So what we can do, bring that up on the next meeting, whereby we need to replace or do whatever you gotta do.
Okay.
You see, but right now, we don't have to go, right, yeah, we don't have to go back and correct nothing.
Okay,
Because you've had another meeting since we done this.
for good health.
You know. Yeah, well, I mean, we can go back to that.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Stokes.
I think I cleared up, I was on the same page as Director Doucette, that, well, I kept hearing the word sell, but I understand you clarified for me that the same entity can provide lease information as well.
And,
That's good.
Okay,
and it's a tool for you
Yes, sir.
as a CEO, because you can select or talk with the realtor that will work with you. So either they will do it just out of or if they want a nominal fee, then you could bring it to her, but then you have someone that got something in the stake instead of just calling and saying, you could just find out who you want to work with, because they're going to understand, give me my best price, but it's something that you want and board members won't be involved with, because we could get that on a sheet of paper. You get it in black and white. And that's the procedure whereby everyone is hands off, and then here's our documentation and we work from there.
okay.
Yeah.
Crystal,
But
Okay, I'm
let
sorry.
me say this. That was a recommendation on maybe looking into having a procedure. But that's no way to hold back any type of project or anything we got going with a lease agreement right now. You know, because this is not nothing we want to
Correct.
stop anything we
Right,
got going.
right.
We need to keep the road,
Right.
the ship going. But I would like to see that in the future.
Well, I'd like to ask, okay, Crystal, he was saying a realtor, like the city works on, this Loop Nest, this company Loop Nest, is that a company or is that you pull that out of the,
It's a website.
okay, it's a website. Okay, can someone tell me how much 30 cents a square foot per acre would be?
About $47,000. No, I think it's $47,000 to an acre.
Per acre.
Per acre. Square foot, how many square foot to an acre?
You got that, Mr. Getwood? You got it?
I'm a politician. I'm a mathematician.
We getting Crystal over here, maybe working on it, because
Yeah.
way above me.
43,560 square feet.
Oh, it can't be that much.
So I'm saying 1 acre, 43,000 square feet. That's about right.
And it would be multiplied by the 30 cents.
Okay, by 30 cents, and how much would that be per acre?
It's $13,068 per acre.
Let me see, we was on number, let me just see where we were.
We on 7. We on 7.
Okay. Okay, good. What's that?
That would take you to.
Yeah, number 7. Number 8, review, discuss, and consider approving of the request to lease property at the Jade Avenue Business Park by Mid-County Plaza, request by me. Gonna get a motion?
Move.
A second? And my question, or not question, I can see, well, yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, they was $1,500 for 50 acres. Is that correct, Crystal? $1,500 a month for 50 acres. Which
Yes,
would-
sir. And I
That would have
did,
been pennies. That would have just been pennies. Right? Yeah. But,
right.
okay. And I can see that just can't work, in my opinion, okay? But a thousand, okay, you have to remember this on this sheet you gave us, apples to apples. And I do understand this Mid-County Plaza was way out of bounds. And I'm glad you done what you done now, because that could have, putting it in contract would have been bad. But we're going to have to remember we don't have any infrastructure there. And I think my thoughts were, in the future, that's something later we can talk about, is in the budget maybe to stab infrastructure in there instead of just raising hay. So that's all I had. Sure.
Okay, I have a question because that's an awful lot of land. If I read it right, it's what, 55 acres?
100.
Okay, that we're going to be allocating to this. And I know we're just now starting. We just got a new CEO. I don't know where we're going in terms of our strategic plan for that business park. And so my question to the CEO is, us leasing a block of land like that at this time, okay, is that going to hinder our strategic plan? Or do you think that's going to help us move in the direction that you have determined that we need to move that business park in?
Very good question, Director Clark. The short answer is not unsure. because I'm just starting the process, and as I committed to the board, we'll develop that strategic plan at the end of the 90-day, overall 90-day plan. That was item 2 of that 90-day plan. If you go back over the list of strategic priorities that I, again, thought I extracted from you all, one of those was the development of the 3 industrial parks. So as I stand here tonight, unsure, with the exception that maybe you all can help me on. Just my research, and with the support of staff giving me research, because I'm just trying to catch up, the covenants for the property don't allow for it to be leased. So the conversation would first have to start as this body to have enough information to be fully prepared to change its own covenants that it established for the property, and then we can then move on. Secondly, in conversations with these folks that staff have had with them, they've made it clear that it is their intent to sublease the property once they've established the main lease. So again, not only do your covenants currently not cover leasing the land, well, it certainly doesn't cover someone coming in at $1,500 a month, turning around and subleasing it at prices that we would not control. So it's far-fetched that this particular project would ever fit into any strategy that I would offer this board. But that's not the specific question that you asked. Generally, I can't tell you, but it'd be far-fetched. I'm going to bring you something that requires you to break your own covenants or reestablish them.
Let me ask you, and this is another place, but our 73 park, can we lease that? Because we already was in process once of trying to lease it, and it didn't work. So is that possible to lease that?
Not that I'm aware of, but that is someone that hasn't studied. I only studied Jade Avenue because this issue came to the floor.
Well,
I'll be more than, that's a part of the overall evaluation
okay.
of our existing programs, policies, and assets that I have to do. I hurried up on this one because this was coming to the board.
Mr. Doucette?
The things I'm hearing that's kind of alarming. The first thing is that the property is not set up. We don't have any covenants to lease. So if we don't have it in covenants to lease, I don't know why we even got to the point where somebody wanted to lease it. And they got here to entertain us. If it's already written what we got and how we gonna deal with the property, then everything coming forward should be in conjunction with it. 2, if we ever did lease, for whatever reasons, I hope that we have in our contract, nobody is gonna lease it again or make money off it if we charge them the money. Because I'm not the smartest person around, but somebody tell me they wanna lease a property and then they're gonna sublease it. I know right then what they're gonna do. They're gonna parcel it out and make more money. Give me my $1,500 and put maybe $3,000 in their pockets. So at the end of the day, I don't know why it got here, but we need to stick with what we have written and how we gonna utilize or sell or lease that property. Whatever it says that was put out, let's take a look at it. Now, if it's something we need to tweak, if it's something we need to change, then let's do that. But right now, I don't think anybody had the intent on leasing property that someone can lease after they lease it from us. Because one thing we understand is once we lease it, if they turn around and start leasing part of it out for $1,500, $1,600, that's none of our business. As long as they don't break that lease with us, then they're gonna be good. I don't think it was a good idea, because now I'm finding out that we're even not we're really not doing what's written. We're dealing with this property. So I think what we need to really do is, if we need more information, I mean, I done heard enough myself, but if other board members need the covenants and it brought to us, and I think at the next meeting, that should be provided to us, so we actually can read it and understand exactly what it says about that property in that business park, so that our decisions will be based on what is written, as opposed to doing something that's in violation of it, and something we really don't have a good grasp about. And I don't think we really got to understand what was going to happen if we leased this property. So my recommendation is to remove the item, and when the CEO has information that he could bring to this board for us to make objective decisions based on what is written, then at that time you can request for our actions. So if anyone else wants to speak, they could speak now, and then after that, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the recommendation, but I don't want to make a motion without someone else having the opportunity to speak. So.
I agree with what Mr. Doucette said regarding consistency and a standard. And we need to come back and do some more research and then have a standard amount of how much we're going to charge, fair market value, whatever the case may be. So I do agree that we should hold this off until we can do more research.
Just to, again, to follow up on Director Clark's question, I can't imagine the circumstances whereby this particular construct would make it into a strategic plan, but that plan ultimately has to be approved by the 7 of you all. I certainly will have more clarity at your next meeting.
So if no more questions, for number 8, can I get a motion?
Move that we remove this item from the agenda to be brought back at a later time by the CEO.
All in favor? Oh. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next one is closed meeting executive session, put on by myself, removed by myself. So I think the next thing we have to do is close the meeting.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Motion and adjourn the meeting?
Point of order.
Point of order.
Yes.
Is there any discussion about a removal? And since I was the subject of that executive session, I obviously don't get a vote and therefore can't contribute anything to that.
Point
But
of order.
to have it,
Point of order.
yes, sir.
The item is not on there. There's not a discussion for
I'm just wondering where that was.
it. It's not up for discussion
Okay.
from nobody. The item was removed.
Fair enough.
We had a motion and to adjourn the meeting till next meeting. That's it. It's adjourned.